Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Primal Potential Podcast. I am Elizabeth Benton. We are continuing our 5-episode series. We've just wrapped up our 10-episode series called The Vault. And in this new 5-episode series, we are talking about defense. So many of us live in the operation on offense. We are focused on the things we want to do and the changes we want to make. And this is the plan. And then we don't follow the plan, at least not consistently. The plan doesn't work the way it could have worked had we followed it. And then we just jump to another offensive approach. It makes sense. That's the way we've always done it. That's what's taught. That's what there's books and podcasts and programs on. But defense is something altogether different. Defense is the study of the moments where you give yourself permission to not follow through. And then it is the strategy around fortifying for those moments. Today, I want to focus on, I'm actually going to start with something that's kind of funny, but also frustrating that happened in my house yesterday. I've got 2 3-year-olds, as most of you know, and also a 4-year-old. And as all crazy stories go, they were upstairs playing nicely together. And it's funny because, side note, I really don't want to be a helicopter mom. And I think a lot of parents in my generation of parenting over-parent their kids and just kind of like micromanage every interaction to keep them out of trouble or whatnot. And I don't want to be that mom, even though I think my tendency is to be that mom. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want anything to get broken. So I'm intentionally in this moment going, okay, this is either great and they're getting older, so they're playing nicely, or I'm going to regret this. And then I hear somebody say, color me here. And I was like, okay, independent playtime is over. I go upstairs. And if you follow me and if you're in the Primal Potential Facebook group, you saw the pictures and the video from this. Pretty funny. I go upstairs and my 4-year-old son had taken a marker and just colored all over the faces, especially around the eyes of both girls, their backs, their arms, their legs. Oh, and the fabric rocking chair, which happens to be white, and the dresser, which is white, and the floor, and some books. And I'm like, in that moment of do I yell at them? Do I laugh? Do I do both? And I looked at one of my 3-year-olds and I said, why didn't you call for mommy when you knew Roman was doing something he shouldn't do? And this 3-year-old cherub of mine looks at me with marker all over her because Roman had told me he wanted to dress them up like villains. And my 3-year-old says, maybe next time. I said, why didn't you come get me when this was happening? Maybe next time. And it was funny and adorable. But as I was cleaning them up, it hit me. She's standing there wearing the very problem, covered in marker, right? Wearing the evidence. And her plan is, yeah, next time I'm going to do it different. And I was like, well, isn't it cute when you're 3? But for those of us who are 50 or 40 or 70 and we're doing the same thing, we are wearing the problem. Sometimes it's physical, right? For me, I was wearing my binge eating. I wasn't hiding my disordered eating habits. I'm wearing it. Sometimes what we're wearing is the emotional weight of not following a budget, of not taking care of our health, right? But it's not hidden. And we say the grown-up version as we stand there wearing the problem. It's all over our face. We do the grown-up version of maybe next time. And we say, I'm going to do better tomorrow. This one thing won't hurt, right? This one thing is okay, but like the next choice is going to be a good choice. On Monday, after I do this thing this weekend, after Valentine's Day, once I get through this stressful season of work, it is the very thing that my adorable 3-year-old covered in marker said to me as she's wearing the problem. Oh, maybe next time. And most of us as adults aren't saying this because we don't care, and we aren't saying it because we don't mean it. I think we do mean it and we genuinely want to change. But let me just point blank it this way. If we know what to do and we want to do it, but we're still not doing it, what's left? That was the frustration that I felt so defeated by for a really long time. Like, I know what to do. You can't be alive in 2026 without access to somebody being like, do it this way. There's a million books for whatever your goal is. There's a million blogs, podcasts, people who will pay to tell you what to do. If you know what to do and you really want the outcome and you're still not doing it consistently, what lever is there left to pull? It's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. I've been there. I still have days where I feel like I'm there. Like I said I was going to do this thing and I wanted to do this thing and I didn't do this thing. So like, where do I go from here? That's what today's episode is all about. Here's what I've realized in my own life and also in coaching people for 12 years now. We are focused on the wrong part of the process. We're trying to change the wrong part of the process, right? We're trying to change the behavior. And of course we are. That's the obvious thing. Like I need to stop binging. I need to eat less processed food, or I need to go to the fast food restaurant less often. I need to work out more. I need to get up with my alarm and stop hitting snooze, or I need to follow the budget that I've created. I got to stop drinking as much. That's what we can see. It's what we can point to. It's what seems like the problem. It is the obvious thing, right? The behavior is the obvious thing. It's the pain point. It's the thing that screams at us to change. But the decision has already been made before the behavior starts, right? And it's not with a big dramatic debate in most cases. It's with something quicker and quieter, and that is a perspective. It's like, imagine trying to force your head to move without involving your neck. If you focus on the neck, the head is going to follow, right? And so many of us are just focused on the head and it's not working. Well, in this case, the behavior is driven by the perspective. The perspective is what creates the choice that follows it. And here we are trying to force change in the decision, the behavior, but the opportunity is right before that, right? It is the moment before the behavior begins. Not some big dramatic thing, something quieter, a perspective, a lens, a story that makes the exception feel reasonable. And once you're standing in that story, that perspective, that lens, the choice feels justified. It makes sense. So you're trying to change the behavior without ever addressing the perspective that pre-decides the behavior. It pre-decides the behavior. I want you to picture a little toy car track. My son has these tracks where you like click the pieces together and then the car runs along it. Imagine for a second that you put the track together and then you're disappointed that the car stayed on the track. That would be ridiculous, right? Like you build the track and then you're like, oh, why does the car always go that way? Well, because you laid the track, right? You laid the track. And that's what we're doing with our perspective. We are creating the track. We are building the road. And then we're like disappointed that the car didn't go there. We're trying to force the car to go in a different direction, but we laid the track with our perspective. So what does that look like? We are building the road, laying the track with the perspective like this one thing won't hurt. I'm really tired. I didn't sleep well last night. I've been so good. I'm going to start on Monday. I deserve this. I don't have time. I'm too overwhelmed. This one thing doesn't matter. And then we're shocked and disappointed and frustrated that we end up exactly where that track leads. I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but I was trying to do a couple days of extended fasting because I think it's healthy for our cells, because it had been a long time since I had done it, because I think it's a support to my relationship with God. And this perspective shows up as I start the day. I open the fridge to get breakfast for my kids. Fasting was so much easier before I had kids, right? Because I didn't have to prep food multiple times a day and snacks for multiple children who are always hungry. So I open up the fridge to get their breakfast, and I'm like, I'm a little hungry. And honestly, as long as I eat healthy today, like I don't need to fast. And maybe it makes more sense to fast on a day where I don't have to work, because I'll probably focus a little bit better if I have something in my stomach. That's a track, right? It's not bad or good, but it leads somewhere. That is laying the track for making myself a bowl of yogurt and sitting down to eat with my kids, right? So if I stand in that perspective, am I surprised when I decide to have yogurt? Like, no, I laid that track. It was a few hours later, I walked into the house. It didn't have the yogurt, by the way. I walked into the house and my son tries a new fruit every Tuesday. Long story, doesn't matter. So he's in there trying, actually he was having 2, jackfruit and prickly pear. And he's like, Mom, do you want to try it? And if I'm in the perspective of like, it's a bite of fruit, whatever, no big deal. Like, it's just a bite. A bite doesn't count. Are we surprised if I have a bite? No. And that's not a bad thought. And it's also not a bad decision. But what it does is it lays a track for the decision that follows. Nobody is surprised if I eat the fruit when the perspective that preceded it was, it's not a big deal. It's just one bite, right? Alternatively, the perspective that I decided to stand in was, I actually want to share this experience with my kid. And so when I break my fast at dinner tonight, I'm going to have it with him and I'm going to ask him to put some in a bowl so that he and I can share it a little bit later. But right now I'm going to get back to work, right? All I'm saying is don't act confused or disappointed when your results follow the track you laid. And the way that you lay that track is your perspective. Let's think about it this way. You look at your to-do list and you think, I don't have time for this and I can do it tomorrow. Like I did the things that I needed to do today. If you then decide to push those tasks to tomorrow and get super frustrated that you didn't finish your list again, you can't be surprised. Your perspective led you there. Alternatively, if you're like, you know what? I don't want to do this stuff, but it's actually going to make tomorrow easier if I do. And I probably can bang it out in 25 minutes. But then not only do I have the stuff done, I also don't have to carry the frustration or the disappointment or whatever else of not getting stuff done. So let's start a timer, turn off the phone, lock in for 20 minutes and see what we can do. That leads a very different way. That is a track going in a very different direction. Most people are trying to change the destination, but the destination is a result. The destination is a result, and the track is what decides where you end up. And the way we lay the track is the story that we tell, the lens that we have on, the perspective that we have. Now, awareness is not enough, right? Sometimes people will be like, okay, so I'll just notice my perspective. The reality is, unfortunately or fortunately, this is just the truth. This usually happens in moments where we are rushed, emotional, stressed, tired, and it happens really fast and it feels automatic. And that can be even more frustrating. Like, I know I was doing that. I know that's the problem, but it's like I wasn't available in that moment to hack in to that thought process and change it, right? Does that feel familiar? Like, okay, I get it. I'm telling myself, oh, you didn't sleep well last night. Hit snooze and you can work out later. I know that perspective is the problem, but it's like I don't have the awareness in that moment. I don't think about another perspective until later. That is very, very real. These tracks are almost like pre-built automatic, and it's not as easy as awareness to create change, but that's what defense is all about. That's why we're doing this series. Defense is a guided practice for those seconds where you talk yourself into exceptions. It is a guided practice for the seconds where you talk yourself into exceptions. And I mentioned this on the last episode. I want to say it again here because these are a lot of conversations I have in my email inbox. A lot of you connect with this idea and it feels like something you haven't tried before because you're over doing the same thing over and over and over again, even if you've been continuing to do it over and over and over again. But a lot of you have said, like, I either can't afford it financially, the 8-week defense program, or I don't trust myself to follow it through and make it worth it. Like, I believe that you do something that works, Elizabeth, but I just don't have the self-trust to make that investment, or some combination of the two. So starting March 1st, we are doing something that I haven't done before, and it is Defense Foundations. This is just a 4-week group, and I am going to give you the full defense playbook, patterns, talkbacks, tools refined across multiple rounds, the interactions that I use with myself to hack into those moments, even when they happen fast, even when it feels automatic. Plus, we're going to do one training every week for the 4 weeks, and also live office hours every week where you and I can talk, you can get coached, you can ask questions, we can troubleshoot it in your own life. The cool thing, 2 really, really cool things, and I only mentioned one of them in the last episode, so don't tune out here. The first 15 people can use whatever you pay for defense foundations as a 100% credit, good for 12 months. So you can fully apply that amount if you decide to go ahead and do an 8-week defense round later. And after the first 15 people, you can apply it as a 50% credit, which I think is huge. And because we don't start until March 1st, and a lot of you are like, I want to get going today, I am going to give you free access to the consistency course between now and when our 4-week cohort ends. So if you sign up today, you get into the consistency course today at no additional cost, and you'll be in there until the end of March. And of course, you can decide to stay if you want to after that. But I want you to be able to get this 100% credit so that if you decide like, okay, this is what I need, this is changing things, this is different than what I've done before, 100% of what you pay for this 4-week defense foundations can be applied to an 8-week defense program within the next 12 months. If you've got questions, shoot me an email, elizabeth@primalpotential.com. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode.